This podcast is brought to you by RYYZN, Make Life Work Out, a health and self-development platform dedicated to helping busy, everyday Kiwis manage their physical health and upskill their mental well-being.
Through sharing relatable and practical content from health practitioners, as well as showcasing interesting stories from interesting people.
For more shows, content, events, and coaching, head to our website, www.ryz-workout.com. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the High Frequency Club podcast. My name is Marwin Salario.
And I'm Sinead Bierman. We're here talking all things self-development, growth and mindset.
In this week's episode, we chat to mental health advocate and group fitness instructor, Filipo Fifita. He talks about his experience with working with troubled youth, navigating sobriety, as well as working on your longevity as a group fitness instructor.
Philly also talks about some of the catalysts that helped spark his self-development journey and some of the things that he now focuses on to continue building upon his self-awareness.
Another great episode full of golden nuggets that will hopefully expand your thinking and facilitate breakthroughs.
Be sure to let us know your thoughts once you've had a listen, and make sure you subscribe and follow along at the High Frequency Club on all your favorite audio platforms, as well as YouTube and Instagram.
Enjoy the show. We're going to dive deep. We're going to dive deep. But bro, I always want to start at the beginning. And for me, as I've said to you off air already, it was such a fresh breath air when you came into the room when we were doing Lesmore's workshop filming, because I come from a small town of Taupo. The people that looked like me were the Māoris and the Islanders, and I gravitated towards them because they had shared values in generosity, kindness, and family. And when I moved up to Auckland, I just didn't have that anymore. So when Longo was on my right side and you came in right in front of me and we were making jokes about like stealing the shoes, even though we weren't, but like we knew deep down on a very cultural level, the humor of that. I was like, oh, I have missed this. And I, like I said, I didn't think I had met you before, but it felt like I had known you for ages. And bro, to me, the most funnest part was sitting in that waiting room. So, I just want to give you your flowers based on the energy that you bring into the room, bro. And also like what in my research of going through what you're on about is like, knowing that we've come from that, brown upbringing, a lot of your work is based on like consciousness and transcending consciousness and bringing light to, unconscious patterns. Right. I don't know about you, and I know we're going to find this out, is that like that wasn't role modeled to me as a brown person when I was younger. It was always about survival. It was about family values. We just didn't have the knowledge in my family, or at least they didn't give it to me, to think about self-actualization. Who am I? It's not about who am I, it's about who are we and how we're going to feed each other. Right. And it's only until I've become a man, an adult, where now I've started to ask myself those questions because of the privileges of life, right, that I've got. So before we get into all of that and all the mental health work that you do, what do we need to know about your upbringing to help us understand the person that we're listening to?
Cool. I actually done like a podcast on my upbringing. I've done 2 episodes in it, but I'll fast forward it. Like I came from Tonga. So small boy, 7 years old, was 97, I came over here. In Tonga, you learn all those things about survival, family values, how to grow up in a community. And when you move over to New Zealand, it was more like isolated, and they thrive on independence. So like everyone is just out there to do their thing and grow and thrive, right? When you're 7 years old and you get taken from what you used to know to something that's totally new, that forces you to adapt so quick. As a 7-year-old, new culture, you've only known Tongan values and Tongan ways of living, and then moving to New Zealand. Like my mum, she didn't really prep us for that. And I do talk about my mum quite a fair bit because she was the one that kind of like brought me over here. So I kind of wade through that way. Anyways, coming over to New Zealand, I didn't know how New Zealanders live. So it was either like you go to school, you do your homework and stuff like that, but I was still caught up in the small things. I had to wear shoes for a starter. Had to dress appropriately. You had to like get into a car and drive to the shops. In Tonga, you wake up in your undies or whatever you've got on, you can just walk down the street. You're there at the dairy, right? When you're with your family, there's a whole bunch of people there when you're here in New Zealand, you have to kind of call them and kind of draw them in from different places, right? But in terms of understanding who I am, I came from a small village to a bigger village in a town, but it was a whole different country. So it was really, really hard for me to kind of adapt. So most of the stuff that I've learned up to this point I've learned it from the people around me, from school, and just from actually going through the struggles of life up to this point. So I could say a lot of it was self-taught.
Just before we get into the topic of the collective versus individualism, because that is very Eastern versus Western, and I really want to dive deep into that topic. But first, I really want to start here with your sense of belonging coming here. Right. Because for me, I moved from the Philippines to New Zealand, Taupo, small little town as well. I hardly spoke any English. I was bald at the time because I had a shaved head. And the only people that I gravitated towards was the Māoris and the Islanders. So there was always this underlying thing of like, where do I belong? Right? Where did you find your sense of belonging? Or can you talk to us about the process of you trying to find your sense of belonging?
Yep. During the school days, like in primary school and stuff like that, I've always had a couple of friends, and I built friends from the people that was in the class. As I moved towards high school, it was kind of like more segregated. So there was different groups that you had to kind of move to. I never really belonged to one group in particular, so I moved from group to group. But at any given point, I never felt like I belonged. So I'll go to one group, and they were like really, really cool, and then I'll be like, oh, this doesn't feel right. And then I'll try the same thing with another group. It doesn't feel right. So eventually, I've learned a habit or adapt a new personality to merge with all different types of groups. You know what I mean? So like you grow in that sense, because I was like, oh, you need to be a certain type of person to be like this group. Then you need to be a certain type of person. Like yourself, I gravitated towards the Māoris and the rugby team group. And that's essentially, you can call it like the jocks of Kirikiri High School, because there was the big group, and then there was all the little groups around it. With the big groups, everyone hung out. The little groups outside of it, they don't really hang out with each other until they come together with that massive group. But in a sense of belonging, goes back to hanging out with the rugby team, and that's mostly the popular group, as they would call it. But I did move from group to group. I didn't really belong to a certain...
Yeah, I remember I used to work in tourism at reception, and different types of people would come. It was the Hooker Prawn Park in Taupo. And I was just going about my day, and my manager was assessing me and watching me. And she goes, you mold your personality depending on the person that you're talking to. And at the time, I didn't know that about myself. I was like, really? And she goes, you talk to like a 40-year-old father this way, and then when people that look like you, like sub G, you know, to them, like you mold to the person. And I was like, didn't know that about myself. And I wonder, like for you, was that, did you ever have that belief that like, I need to adapt because I need to be liked? Did you ever have tendencies of like people pleasing? And I bring this up not to out you about it. Like I bring this up because this is from my experience. I want to see if anyone felt this way, because I resonate with you because you're really good with people. You're a good conversationalist like I am. So I'm relating. That's what I'm doing right.
100%. But yes, like people pleasing is still a thing for me at the moment, and it's one of those unconscious habits that I'm trying to break out of. One, because it makes me feel like I still don't belong, and two, it feels like it just requires so much energy to be a different person outside yourself. So that's where I kind of like think about, like, bro, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you've grown up now, and people don't really care about you as much as you think they do, like in your head, because you're just in your head, right? And that's one of those things you're trying to break out of. So there's two sides to that. You can don't give a crap about anything, and then it becomes a little bit more ignorant. Or you can give a crap about everything, and then you know, so secluded in your own head that you become isolated. So
You're not being your true self.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the funny thing is, though, that when you're sort of trying to adapt or morph to the people around you, they're probably trying to do the same to you. Like, if you're naturally super high energy and you're like, oh, these people are being a bit more chill, I need to tone myself down, they're probably being like, fuck, he's hell high energy, I need to, like, be more like him, you know? You're both probably trying to match each other versus, like you said, just being yourself, whatever that may be on that day.
But I encourage it. Like, if I come into a room and you guys have the same energy, I'm like, bro, let's go, let's go. You don't have to restrain your personality because other people are there. Like, we're all individuals, and if that's what makes you happy, like, go for it. I 100% encourage it. Like, go for it. But yeah, a lot of the personalities that I grew up with, that was like very, very generic. Like, you had your jocks, you had the popular groups, you had like the nerdy groups, you had the groups that didn't. But I've always had to kind of like adapt personalities, and it was always about people pleasing. At the end of the day, I didn't think I belonged, and I didn't think I was good enough to be in that school. So I had to adapt who I am, so that way I can match their expectations or whatever it is of me. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think what's helped me unconsciously during that time of me trying to people please and trying to be liked by other people is that it helped sharpen the skill of being likable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And now, like, I've made a career out of it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a PT, I'm a group fitness instructor, all the things that bring me joy as well as, like, you know, remuneration is because of what I had to sharpen as a child. Like, so as negative as it sounded at the time where I wasn't liked, I was trying to be likable, and I've got this limiting belief that I'm not a likable person, it made me become more personable and sharpen my communication skills and my people skills.
Would it go back to that addict, like, without struggle you won't grow, right? Like, you have to be in a position to, like, really, really test who you are as a person and as your character to grow. Yeah, I feel like that's what kind of relates it back, but I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, Buddha says, bro, like, life is suffering.
Yeah.
So, like, accept the fact that life is going to be hard. That's the point. And Bruce Lee said, don't pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a hard one.
Right.
Because the adversity is meant to challenge you so then you can take the treasure and then move on from that experience. You know? Fuck, yeah, deep. Shit.
Why do you like that?
I do like that. So how did you get into the position that you are now? So we're currently on the journey. You're in Kirikiri. So now what?
So in Kirikiri, and then I moved to Whangarei, and I expanded on my growth and learning from people. So I became like a bartender in Whangarei. So I used to work at a bar there. So a lot of the skills I learned about interacting with people, like body language and all that stuff, I learned from working behind the bar. Because, like, at the end of the day, I left home when I was, like, really early. So I made a decision to myself. I'm like, hey, like, it's you against the world now. So you have to learn everything by yourself. So I've always had this ability to, like, pick up on things. Like, I'll visualize and I'll look at it and I can see the sequence in terms of movements, and I ingrained it into my movements and my way of thinking. It sounds very analytical, but it is it's just the way I think. So in Whangarei, became a bartender. I learned a lot about people. I learned about what they do, how they are, what they're doing every single day, right? And then from there, I moved from Whangarei to Auckland. I came here and became a bartender again. That was more like a terrible, like, I learned the bad side of things about bartending. Like, you work late hours, 3 o'clock in the morning, you go out drinking, then you go home at like 6 a.m., sleep to 2 p.m., wake up, rinse and repeat. So once that went on for like 2 or 3 years at a time. And me and my best mate Reese, he used to have this car. So we used to sleep in the car because we couldn't pay our rent. The reason why we couldn't pay our rent is we're spending all our money on alcohol, having a good time. Anyways, eventually I broke out of that circle, and then I moved to Hamilton, where I was stuck for like 80 years. Not stuck in the sense it was like really, really bad. There's always like this connotation that Hamilton is actually a bad area. Unless you're doing something like productive for yourself or doing something bad, like, if you're doing something bad, you know it's going to be bad. Like you fit in with the mold of the connotation that's bad Hamilton. But I actually had like a relatively cool life in Hamilton. I met some of my besties there, man. And I do miss them. I hope they come to workshop. Hope you come to workshop, team. I miss you. And so I was there for 8 years, and then I moved back up here because now I'm living with my partner Rachel. So we're over at the shore and still teaching classes. And all of this happened for a good solid 15 years. So I've left home for 15 years and just never looked back.
So your mother is still in Kirikiri?
No, she's actually up here in Auckland. Where are we? She's up in Green Lane, I think.
It's not far at all. You can go visit your mum after this.
Right? She's always nagging me. Like, when comes this? I'm sorry, Mum. I've just got home and I'm like, I'm sleepy and I need to have a nap. But she's a social worker as well. So she's dealing with people, looking after people. Naturally, I think in our family, we are just people that likes looking after other people. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a natural, habitual thing that we've learned, that looking after one another expands outside of our circle as well. So we just, it's pretty cool.
It's a behaviour that was passed down to you.
Probably, a cultural thing,
Right?
So what do you do now for people who don't know?
I'm currently studying occupational therapy. So I'm in my second year now. Before that, I did mental health and social work in Wintec. And before that, I was a tutor before COVID. So I was tutoring for the PT. You guys must have heard of this, New Zealand Institute of Health and Fitness.
Yeah, NZHF. That's where I graduated from.
Really?
Newmarket. Yeah.
Did you like it?
It was all good. It got me what I needed. It was basic. It's real basic. I think the greatest parts about personal training is learn outside of it.
Yeah.
Like they'll give you the basics. Now it's your initiative to go learn and grow and experience and self-reflect on that experience.
Yeah.
I think a lot of PTs just take that and then just think, oh, I've done it now. And then just,
I'm all
I'm a PT, I'm all good. That's it. Which is crazy.
100%
crazy.
crazy. What?
Because you're no longer thinking about the client. You're not client-centric. And I think the health and fitness industry should always be about the clients, the members, the people. Think about from their experience and serve that rather than trying to serve yourself. That should be a byproduct of you serving others.
Did you find that like you found even more like cool information outside of learning PTing?
100%.
Like
100%.
some of the stuff they gave us was like, that was really cool. I'm like, whoa, that's like the performance and like time and attention, all that stuff, all this lingo and language, glossary words that you're trying to like figure out. But outside of it, you're actually forced to research all of that stuff, right? And it makes you learn so much more. You just absorb, like.
They just expose you to new concepts and new words, and then it's up to you to go out there and delve deeper into it. Because the whole thing is just surface, which is good.
But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, where was I? Anyway, you're a tutor at NZF. That's right. Where you at?
I was a tutor at NZF, and then through that, I was still teaching classes. So now I don't teach grit. I used to teach a lot of grit. Sprint, RPM, body pump, strength development, went through strength lab, all of that stuff as well.
You're a die-hard instructor. You teach a lot.
Bro, do you know what? I always get asked, is like, how do you do it? And I'm like, over the years, you're all about Les Mills and all about teaching your classes. As I've grown older, I'm like, it's all about perseverance and maintaining what you got now, because it's all about the long haul, right? It's all about trying to maintain what you got now, so that way you don't break down later.
Interesting. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because I think you can also chime in on this.
Because you're 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What do you mean that you die hard, first get in? Is that like trying to do it all? Like, what does that mean? What is your relationship when you first start off as a Les Mills instructor?
Okay, so when you first start out, you're like, you got the butterflies, and you're like, oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm in with this big brand, right? So you got to represent. So you take on board all of the classes, like anything, covers, whatever. And then to a certain degree, like a couple of years down the road, you might be like, this is not working, because like the amount of effort that's required to maintain that high like performance, you start to like slowly deteriorate. And the more you actually do something, the more you kind of like start to hate it a little bit. Not that I say I hate my classes now, because I've found ways to kind of make it work with my everyday activities, but yeah, it might be different for you.
No, I've felt the same thing. I think I've gone through phases where, like you said, you just take on so many covers and you're doing so much that all you are doing is les mills, to the point that you almost do start to resent it a little bit, or it feels more like work, when for me les mills has never felt like work. And as well, missing out or not having the capacity to do other things. Like I'd have friends like, oh yeah, we're going to yoga, or we're going for a run, and I'd be like, I've just done 3 classes today, I'm fucked, like I can't go for a run. And it's, oh, what about tomorrow then? I'm like, tomorrow I'm teaching 2 classes. So I think for me over time it's just finding that balance where I'm doing enough of the programs I love but can do other things outside of that, and you don't feel like it's all you do.
And it goes back to that addict, like having too much of a good thing is a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and I think a lot of instructors get in that because they do love it. They love what they do. They love getting to obviously be on stage and perform and connect with members, and they love the music, they love their program. But you can do too much, with anything.
If there's anyone listening, like if you don't know, if you've never been to a Les Mills class, the instructors are doing the training as well. And when you're teaching,
we're
like
in it with you.
If you're teaching 10 classes, that means 10 training sessions a week. And a normal person gets like 5 in, or 4, or 5, 4, 6, right? But you're an instructor, so you're fucking in it to win it with your members. And that doesn't make up a lot of time for anything outside. If you want to do boxing, can't do it. Because a lot of your physical, mental and emotional energy is used on being a Les Mills instructor.
Or if you do, you burn out. Like I went through a phase once where I was teaching maybe 10 to 12 classes a week, but then trying to do CrossFit 3 times a week and trying to build up my running. And so I was just burning out. Every time I was going to CrossFit, I wasn't ever progressing. Like they're always like, come on, Shane, you've been coming for a while, you should be lifting a bit more. But I was always just fatigued. I was always tired, achy, sore, and then I was in my head, I'm always like, well, I've got to teach pump tonight and I've got RPM, and so therefore I was never able to give 100% at whatever I did. And then even when I taught pump, I was like having to go a bit lighter because I was like, oh, I'm sore from CrossFit, and like just wasn't there doing too much that I wasn't being able to actually give 100% or improve in anything I was doing. And that's when I was like, why am I trying to do everything? Like, and then I think that was in the lead up to lockdown, and then obviously lockdown, and I just did nothing for that first week of lockdown, which was so good. And then from there, I was like, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going to lose so much fitness. And yeah, after that week I went for a run. It was like the longest run I'd ever done. Felt great. And I was like, my body just needed a whole week of nothing.
So what got you guys to do so much in the first place? What was that fuel?
For me, it was the passion. I'm a big sucker for the little guy. Like I'm a person who, when I wake up in the morning and I feel like there's self-doubt kicking in, like I can't be stuffed doing this, like I feel like my motivation is down here. I always got to think someone out there needs your help, and someone out there has gotten up and is in the same shoe as you, and they're making an effort to go in there and train, and they need someone to train with. So be that person who keeps them accountable and they keep you accountable. But going back to your point in saying doing so much, like you have your goals and aspirations outside of teaching, and you give so much to teaching that you take away from all your goals and ambition, and you slowly see it dwindling away. And like for me, to see your goals and dreams like slowly become second, the second option, that's when you need to pull back, because you want to keep the balance, right? Yeah. And as I was saying, like mentioned before, like it was a blessing in disguise that the COVID, like 7 weeks, was it? How long did we go for? It was ages.
Ages.
Oh my man.
If not, it felt like 2 years, like just straight years.
Like when you went for your run, you feel like rejuvenated, right?
Yeah.
You were just like, whoa, I have so much like energy I can give to the things that I actually truly love. And that was like a big wake-up call for me. So after COVID, man, I started planning, like these are the things that I'm going to do in a week. This is how many classes I need to do in order to maintain probably 50 or 60% of my max capacity on anything. So, yeah.
I wanted to add on to about teaching too many classes. I think another thing with newbies, well, I know it was the case for me, I guess I thought to get better at my craft, the more I do, the better. Like the more I teach, the better I'm going to get. In combination with a little bit of people pleasing, like I always feel if someone needed a cover, I was always like, oh yeah, sure. I got you. I've got 5 classes in a day. That's all good. But then, again, over time, so I used to look at other, trainers and presenters that were only doing, they would only do their 2 pump and their 2 CX, and I was like, that's it. You're a like top trainer presenter and you're only doing 2 of each of your programs. But little did I know that they had found that balance. They obviously were probably putting more time into their own goals, whether that be their strength training or going to boxing, which all those things help you get better at your craft, because you're obviously learning the more technicalities of the movements that we might do in pump or in combat. And you're learning from other people, I think, as well. When you're going to other classes or you're going to other gyms or other studios or learning from other coaches, you in turn become a better instructor or coach because you're learning from other people.
And I'll just add on to that. Doing heaps of classes, obviously you start to break down, you know, right? You can feel it physically and mentally. So a good friend of mine, hi Giles, you guys might know Giles Bryant. Right, so when I first came to take a Puna, we sat down and he was like, bro, like, what's your goals this year? And I just unloaded, like, look, man, I do a lot and I feel like I am falling to pieces, right? You know, I can't give the same energy to the classes like I used to. So he said this one really, really cool thing that has stuck with me for like forever. Less is more. So the more you take on board, the more energy you have to give. And at the end of the day, it's just going to keep drawing at you. But if you pull back to conserve some energy, you're able to distribute the same energy into your craft, right? And that has stuck with me for like the last year and a bit. Because I always think, like, am I doing too much? Am I giving too much? And it's like, maybe I'm not giving enough. But you need that time to recuperate and to learn, to adapt, and let your brain, let your body really take in all that information, all the things that you're learning, and then really evenly distribute it to, you know, the energy towards all the things that you do love.
Yeah, I also think instructing gives people a sense of importance, and that can be quite addicting. Especially when you start, let's say you work at a shit-ass job that you don't feel valued in, you do that 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and then you have one class at 6 p.m. where people say how cool you are, how great you are, the lights are on you. Now all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I've never had this feeling before. I've never felt so valued, and I get to contribute and share my love for movement. That gets addicting. Now I want that more. What other program can I do? I want that every day. It's an addiction, you know, the dopamine spike of feeling valued. And we all want it. We all want to be appreciated. But it's now also just being aware on how much is too much, because it comes at a cost, especially instructing. I want to go back to what you said about my question is, how do you find balance between wanting to be there for the little guy, wanting to be there for others, but now also being there for yourself? Like, did you feel a sense of guilt when you were like, okay, I don't know, were you doing 10 classes a week? I don't know.
I was doing 8 to 10 classes.
8 to 10 classes, and then you were like, no, you know what, I need to cut back. Did you feel a sense of guilt? And if so, how did you manage it?
At first, I did feel like a deep guilt, because that was what was driving me for a very long time. But like I mentioned before, less is more. So I started to realize that when I was taking a break and come back and teach a class, I had so much good things to say. I had so much more energy to give, and my interactions and relationship with people were like amplified. So I like took a snapshot of that. I'm like, this is like the ideal person I want to be. How can I do that more often, and to every single person I interact with? So I did feel guilt, but at the end of the day, like I mentioned like earlier, like people care about you, but not as much as you think as you do in your head, right? Because in your head, you're like, bro, you're letting this person down. Like, why are you doing this? When it's like, this like your ego is going at it. So I'm like, bro, like, pull back. When you don't have anything in your cup to give, that you'll slowly start to resent the things that you love. So to anchor my feeling of guilt, I just got to remind myself that you need to better yourself mentally, physically, and sometimes spiritually to come back and do the things that you do.
So you talked about now it's about longevity and maintenance. Like, what does that look like now in your routine as an instructor? So you started 8 to 10 classes. What does longevity and maintenance look like now for Filipo, and then you, Shanae?
You want to go first?
Well, yeah, sure. Well, at the moment I'm only teaching one sprint because obviously yeah.
Sprint gang.
And I go hard in that sprint, man, because it's my one and only. Or sometimes I come to yours and team. And that's because I am teaching a lot more at Strong Pilates, which Strong Pilates, I'm not physically doing the workout, so you're just a coach. But in saying that I have found is still a lot of energy. I think initially I was like, oh yeah, sweet, this will be easy. This will be way more sustainable than physically doing the workout. But it is still so much energy to interact with a full class and get around to everyone and be correcting everyone and giving those options and interacting before and after class. So even now I feel that I'm probably at my capacity, and we're obviously, I'm in the process now of training up a lot of new instructors. And ideally, once they're all good to go, I'll be cutting myself back. So I can then do my role of training and development and getting around to classes and working with the new ones and not doing as much myself.
Can I ask you a question? Okay, one, have you seen the puppy yoga thing they have on TikTok?
No.
That's like they have a yoga classes, and then they let little puppies just...
Oh, cute.
I know. How is that not a thing here in New Zealand? Because
Okay.
I would be 100% be there.
And
Like,
you need to open up a studio.
I should. Just puppies and like, hey, the SPCA's like, you need to throw some puppies in here. Like, this will bring people in.
You've got a dog. That's why you say that, right?
It's actually a flatmate dog. Kaiser, love him. But yeah. And the second question I was going to ask is, what's the difference between yoga and Pilates? Like, for some strange reason, just associate the two as being the same thing.
No, I would, again, I'm not a yoga teacher and I have not done a lot of yoga
question.
before, but for me, I think when I've done yoga, it's a lot more kind of flow, stretching, still some strength components, I guess. They do have a lot of like their holds in certain positions. Whereas Pilates, depending on whether obviously you're doing mat Pilates or reformer Pilates, which is on the machine, it is generally a lot more core and movement. So it always comes about coordinating arm and leg movements with your core being on pretty much the whole time. So I guess like to link that into like example Les Mills body balance is like a fusion of all of that. Like body balance, we do like a little bit of Tai Chi, there's a little bit of Pilates in there, and a bit of yoga as well. So
I guess that would anchor, it would just anchor because we do Les Mills body balance, so I just think...
They're all the same, because body balance is a fusion kind of all those types of movement. Yeah.
There is shapes, Les Mills shapes, and that's his Pilates inspired. I've never
so
done
that's
it, though.
more of a mat Pilates style.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to come along one day.
I'd have to.
Do a session.
If you have the capacity.
Yeah, if you have the capacity. Wouldn't want to overload you though.
So back to you. What does maintenance and longevity look like for you as an instructor now?
Man, you got to go back to your foundations. Like, I have a very structured program. On Mondays, I do stretches and then slowly, gradually work into like strength training. On Tuesdays, I do a little bit of cardio, incorporate a little bit of strength training, finish on some power. So to answer your question, is having a routine, but having a plan as well. So you gotta visualize your plan. You gotta put your plans in motion, and then you monitor it. Once you get good enough at monitoring, and you feel like you're making progress, kind of like PT, then you can start to do like bigger and better things. In terms of maintenance, you start by looking after yourself first. Your mental health and your physical health first, and then everything else will just kind of fall into place.
Yeah, it goes back down to like, what is the lifestyle that you want to have physically, mentally, and emotionally? Like, who do you want to be? And if that means doing 10 to 15 classes at Les Mills, so be it. If that's the lifestyle that you chose. But doing things unconsciously because it just feels good and not actually really making a conscious decision about it is where it starts to get, I guess, poisonous or toxic or overloaded, right? Let's move on from there. I want to really dive deep now into your social work, bro.
Oh, yo.
So you're part studying, part working as well?
No, at the moment I'm just full-time I'm full-time student, and then I'm doing part-time teaching. So I haven't really got into the field of social work yet. I did the study, and then I moved up here. So I haven't really explored the avenue just yet. But when I was working in placement for my study, I worked with troubled youth. So I was talking to you earlier about it. It was actually really, really cool to see like how talented and how good these kids were. It was just unfortunate that they were kicked out of school and they were drug dealing and they were fighting in classes and stuff like that. Which is a damn shame, because deep down, they've got something to give, And it just takes a little time and patience for people to kind of see their vulnerable side. And you have to really try to break down those little walls one layer at a time. The one evident thing that I saw within that placement was the teachers. Like, having good role models made a huge difference. Like, you know, the majority of them was like Pacifica and Māori, right? But even the New Zealander, like, or the white kids that were there, they were integrated into that cultural thing, and they were reintegrated back to meeting their roots and growing from the bottom up. Man, I felt like I was in a spiritual realm, because everything we talked about was like, you're connecting to the land, you're connecting to ancestors and things like that, and that really kind of like ground you, if that makes any sense. But yeah, in terms of the whole social work thing, I think that's why I'm doing occupational therapy, so that way I have an avenue for social work and mental health, and have an avenue for occupational therapy, and then you have another avenue which is teaching classes and, you know, have a PT background as well. Everything that I do is like it's like a plan. I'm trying to collect the pieces to basically do some of the ultimate myself. Like, it sounds very spiritual, but I'm always trying to collect little relics of work that I can do so I can give the best, if that makes any sense.
Sounds like overall that's all rooted in wanting to help people.
Yeah, it is.
They were all,
Yeah, people is at the center of it, and anything around it is what I do has to connect. So that way the people in the inside of my circle is well looked after. Yeah.
To the trouble with you saying that there's so much talent in there, but it's the hidden behind so much.
Oh, it's
so
such
many
a
walls.
shame, man.
What are those walls that you saw within them, and how do you think those walls were built?
Man, honestly, it stems back kind of like us, bro. Probably the same as you. It goes back to their homes. They're growing up. Like, I saw kids that their parents were going in and out of jail. They've had like parents who were killed in like gang wars, right? Or they had parents that are in the gang and they can't get out of that. So everything that I saw, their little traumas, everything their parents did, built this foundation for the little kid, and they picked up on that. And they picked up and they use it as a way to kind of like block everything else. It's like, my dad's in a gang, don't fuck with me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't mess with me and stuff like that. So you had to find ways to kind of break those barriers down. So for a lot of those kids, their traumas from home is like the biggest and foremost obstacle you kind of had to get across. The best way to kind of do that is to relate to them at a certain level. Kids are so different, and it's like hit and miss, because they could show you something, but they totally mean something else. Take the love-hate thing, right? You think the little kids hate you, but deep down they're just like, hey, I'm just trying to show off to you because I actually like think you're cool. I thought I have to be this. Yeah, they're trying to impress you, and that's all part of their learning process. But those kids, man, they were actually really smart, like street knowledge wise. I'm like, what? How do you even know that? I don't even know that, man. I'm like, I'm a grown ass man, and you're like doing me, and I was like, what the hell? And it's just a damn shame that because they grow up in an environment that giving them no option, that's the only avenue they chose, like, you know, like crime and stuff like that, because that's a way of venting of what's happening back at home. It's a damn shame. But so cool that they had their tutors, man, and they're passionate. I can see it. Like, they get picked up from their homes. Like, they get a little van, and we do like raps. We're inside the van, and like they all take turns like rapping and all that stuff, and it's so cool, man. It's so wholesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the thing. That just goes to show the power of role models, you know. And to them, like, oh well, for us, we look at that and like, fuck, that's trauma. Yeah. But to them, that's just normal everyday life, because that is behaviours. That is just, well, if mum and dad do this must be normal. Everyone must be doing this. Yeah. And if
everyone in my neighbourhood's doing it.
Yeah, my friends who I catch up with, they have the same yarns about their parents. This must be normal. Yeah. And it's only until you get someone who, one, can look like you, who is doing something different, can show you a different way, to still feel good about yourself, then you start opening yourself up to different perspectives. But you're right, that's so difficult as a child. Yeah. Because the 1 hour I say I spend with you I'm still doing 23 hours at home.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm still exposed to the certain stimulus that backs up certain beliefs about myself and my environment and the path to success.
And man, it was really, really cool with those teachers. Like they taught them like how to like clean up, like the basic things that you do at home. Like us cleaning up, like that is just second nature, right? They don't do that. So we had to really go all the way back to the basics and really teach them like, this is okay, this is not okay, this is how you do this is how you cook and stuff like that. So it was really amazing because I didn't think I needed to learn that, but then I think back to my childhood, it was like, actually, I had to kind of learn a lot of things about myself, and I wish I had someone who taught me that so that it could fast track my learning process. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's the importance of having a mentor and someone as a role model, because they do fast track your learning process. And at the end of the day, we just want to learn a little bit faster and be just a little bit better than ourselves, you know? Like,
Did you ever struggle with taking that trauma, those emotions back home?
bro, 100%. My biggest thing for me was obviously going the whole sobriety thing and drinking. In my upbringing, drinking is like the normal thing. And when you go into a small town, there's not a lot that you can do.
But drink.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
And I think it's still happening now, but there has been a shift in the whole drinking culture in New Zealand. One thing that kind of made me like be aware of how bad our drinking culture is that our friends from overseas, they say that it's weird that New Zealand drink to the point where you're like disorientated. Overseas, they drink with their food. So they've always associated like one drink, one meal, and that's it. But here, we take like a drink and we take it to the next level, and we absolutely seen this. So let's go. And I'm like, bro, like chill. And not, I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like honestly, I was that let's go guy. Like, you know, and it was such a bad habit to have. Yeah, like straight up, like let's go. You know, like I was the bendy arms guy, man. I was all sorts. So you have like different, you know, in your group of friends, like you have the bendy arm, you have like timid Timon.
Well, what do you mean? Who's the bendy arm? What's the bendy arm?
The person who like you can easily convince.
Yeah.
Like
You're the catalyst?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm resonating.
I was like, bro, drink. Come on. It's like, why are you not drinking? Like you should be drinking. Like, you know?
Yeah.
Which is like, if you maybe in like early years, people would be like, bro, like you've changed, and I said, yeah, I changed for the good, man. I have to. No, I had to. But yeah, I was that guy. Like I'll just rock up. My way of like having fun was like, bro, I got us a 24 box. This is us. We're gonna sit down for the next hour or so. We're just gonna send it and see where it takes us.
Oh, bro, feels G. Yeah. That was me 15 till like fucking 20, at 29. And I'm 30. Fuck yeah. That was my definition of fun, you know?
Yeah.
And one of my values is have fun. And that was the vehicle for me for a very long time.
And it got worse. Like, beers wasn't hitting enough, right? So you started to drink more beers. Yeah. And once you got to that point where beers, like, X amount of beers could not give you the same hit, you started looking at like
The bags.
Yes, bro. Like the bags, you got the bags and you got the bottles, and whiskey just became the normal thing. And we used to, me and my little brother, we used to just drink like a bottle of whiskey and go to town like it was nothing. That's when you know you have an issue, that you're drinking a full bottle and you go out and you're still functioning. That becomes scary. The one thing that kind of made that validation of drinking a cool thing is there's this notion at the moment that people think that you're an alcoholic and you're a high functioning alcoholic. The definition for it is that someone who's like still able to do their daily routine and task and stuff like that whilst drunk. For when I was at Wintec studying mental health, surprisingly, I was actually like drinking a lot. We used to go out for lunches and have like beers and stuff, and I used to get lit before going back to classes. Sorry, tutors, if you're listening to this. I was actually lit to go into class, and then because people are always like, man, you're like a high-functioning alcoholic, so you wear that as a badge of honor, right? And you're like, yo, I can actually do this. No, it's not good, man. Do not do it.
So what was the point? What was the turning point for you? Was this one event? Was it an accumulation?
Oh, man.
Like, what was your... At what point were you like, this is enough's enough?
Okay, so a bit about my history. Like, I've had multiple relationships, and the one thing that always broke first was my relationships. Then it went to my mental health, and then my physical health. My relationships with people, whether I love them or people I associate with or working place, it just deteriorated, and it went back to feeling like I'm outcast. So as I started to see the foundation of who I am start to really fall to pieces, and that's relationships, right? That's the biggest foundation for me, was my relationship. When I started to see that fall apart, it took me all the way back to being a little kid. Like, bro, you don't belong anywhere. People just see you as this drunk alcoholic, like your values as being on the piss. Like, and you endorse that. And here you are, like that's a contradicting personality, because you're learning about mental health and how to bring people up from a low place. Yet here you are going all the way down to here, it just didn't match. So the biggest turning point was 1 year. Me and my partner Rachel, who we have been together for 2 years now. We had a massive fight, and I was ready to just not drink anymore. And I made the decision that night. I promised her that I was like, I'm stopping this, because your relationship and our relationship means the world to me, and I don't want to break that. So
sounds like me and Shanae.
Yeah, real?
Yeah.
Are you guys not drinking either?
Oh, she doesn't drink at all. She doesn't drink at all, but then she has a boyfriend who was fucking drinking every single week.
Yeah.
And date nights I'd come drunk because I'd hang out with the boys first, and to me that was normal. Sometimes it would be to alleviate the anxiety of date night, because we were like fresh as well. And I just thought it was normal.
Then you're like, you have a fight, then you're like, oh man, I'm sorry. The next day, it was just a backwards and forward, and just continuously. Mm-hmm. And for me, that one argument from that New Year's is like just triggered it.
Because Rachel was sober too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So she was ready to do the same thing.
Yeah.
She might be able to kind of tell you a little bit more detail of what she's gone through. But when I kind of threw the idea to her, she was like, okay, well, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, okay, sweet. So now I made that commitment. But it was because it was like accountability. So I kept her accountable. She get me.
So you don't have any drinks?
Nah, man.
And how long has it been?
2 years.
Wow. So you don't have one even with dinner anymore?
Nah.
Did you go through a phase where you're like, oh, I'll just have one for dinner, like that kind of thing? Or did you just literally go cold turkey?
I went cold turkey, but I emphasize this to people that in order for me to kind of be in this position, that I started kind of like planning my basically getting out of the drinking culture. Like I planned it. It's premeditated. Everything I did was like, okay, like if you're going to a party, drink one less beer. Like if you got heaps of events that involves drinking, go to one of them instead of all of them. You know what I mean? I started slowly integrating that transition to come out and be sober.
Yeah, because the other thing is like, do you not go to social events now?
I still do.
Do you take 0%ers? Like, how do you facilitate this?
So I still have 0%ers. Like when I first started, I drank a lot of it because you're trying
keep
to
up with everyone.
You're trying to replace that habit.
And you want something in your hand. I think that's a big thing as well.
Yeah.
Because ultimately we're social creatures, so we want to merge in with that with people. But there's only so many like non-alcoholic beers you can drink, and then you get so bloated. And I'm like, how the hell was I drinking a 24 box? Like, like how were you going through the tuis? Like Well, I was like, I don't know how I did it. Like, I can't even have like 2 or 3 beers and I feel bloated. But to facilitate that feeling, honestly, there's only so much water you can drink. There's only so much non-alcoholic beers and beverages you can have. Then you just like, at the end of the day, I just rock up and I'm like, what's up? They have this thing now. They call it the French goodbye, and there's the Irish goodbye. The French goodbye is you're just there for the good times and you leave as soon as you start to feel that people are getting drunk. The Irish goodbye is what's up, disappear, don't even say goodbye.
So the French goodbye, you actually say goodbye.
You gotta go say goodbye, like, hey man, like, it's very nice being here.
That's what I found. That's what I was trying to explain to Marwan, is that, like, I guess if you're trying to stay there with everyone, you do feel the need to be drinking that much. But like I said, after I go to an event, I've caught up with everyone, I've had yarns with the people I want to yarn with, and then I'm like, cool, it's like 9:30, like, I'm all good now. Like, you guys are just going to continue getting drunker, continue having, like, your yarns are going to get less and less like making sense.
It's repetitive.
Like, you know, it's repetitive shit. And I'm like, and I've already caught up with you all now. I've had great chats with you. I'm going to go home now and get my 8 hours sleep and feel good and feel fresh tomorrow morning. Like, whereas I think you can think, oh, maybe I'm being boring because I'm leaving early, but it's not. Like, I've gone there and I've done what I want. I set out to catch up with my friends, to see everyone, have great chats, catch up. I've done that now. It's 10 p.m. Good night.
Peace out.
For me, like, it was even, I started to think about it before I had even met Sinead, and I would go through like phases, you know.
Yeah, man.
For me, I started to, the drinking was a vehicle for me to have fun, which is one of my values. I love to have fun.
Yeah.
But I also love to be productive.
Right.
In my career and in my personal life. And I started to wake up to the fact that I was like, cool, I am fucked up Friday, Saturday, Monday.
No.
I'm hardly 50% on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday, I'm probably like 90, and then I feel normal again on Thursday.
Yeah.
So that means 4 days out of the 7, I am not 100%.
But did you feel like you'll go back to normal just in time to send it again?
That's what I mean. So Thursday, I'm normal, and then it's time to send it again on Friday.
Yeah.
And then when I took a step back, I was like, shit, there's one thing to not be liked by others. It's another thing to not be liked by yourself.
Yeah,
you know,
man.
When I realized, I was like, this is not who I want to be. Like, that hit real deep.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen like that, you know? It was only until I had the external accountability of Sinead. She was like, that's not normal.
We gotta love girlfriends, right?
That's all,
I mean, you're more than that. You're more than accountability, but you know what I mean. Like, you know, we need the extra.
Yeah, I think our relationships are a mirror to your unconscious behavior. Right?
Yeah.
And when you were telling me, like, after even going for like dinner with friends, and I'm fucked up, she's like, this isn't normal. And I'm like, isn't it? This is all I'm used to.
Yeah.
When you go out for
I'm like,
dinner,
everyone's just having one,
yeah.
and you're already on your 3rd drink, and everyone's still just on their 1st, like with their meal.
And you probably would have seen him like fidgety, like, you know, like.
You could see, and you could see.
You can see he's like.
He was ready for someone to be like, "Hey, where are we going to from here?"
Yeah.
He was ready for that, like, where are we going to next? Because everyone's like, "We're here for dinner. Like, we're just out for dinner." And
Right?
that's it. You know? But he's like, "Who's gonna?"
He's just waiting for someone to just light it up. Like, would you like a shot, bro? Would you like a shot? Like, you look like you need some. And you can tell, but just their body language, man. Like, we're fidgety and
then
like.
they're not present, though, for me. That's what irritated me the most, is when when it's at more than a couple of drinks, it's people are no longer present, and you're trying to have a conversation, they're looking straight through you, because they're just like, where are we going to from here? When can I get my next drink? And they're not actually listening or engaging, and that's what I'm like.
And like, you think back now, you probably think that back now, like, holy crap, like Sinead, like her friends and family would be like, you would have felt a little bit embarrassed though, right? Like, be honest about it, because I feel that for my previous partners, like, they would have been embarrassed to see me in a state. I remember one time in one of my previous partner, did I drink a whole bottle of whiskey? It was her birthday. Do you know what happened? I couldn't even walk, and I fell in front of the bouncer, and like, I just comed.
Wow.
Fuck.
And so they had to take me home, and then like, I felt really, really bad, because it was someone else's time to shine, and I took that shine away from them, and I hate that, and I hated that. Yeah, she's listening. Hey, what's up? Yeah, my bad. I got you.
Yeah, so many cringy moments, right?
Oh,
100%.
100%.
My exes, I had to meet their family, but I'd been coming off a bender that I slept the whole day at the did not meet the family. Hardly met the family. Only came out to eat. And then after I ate, I went back to sleep.
No. Yeah.
What's wrong with him? He's tired.
Oh my God.
I cringe at that. And I remember being in that moment, I'm so tired. When can I sleep? Thinking that's normal?
Nah.
Did you not see the gravity of this moment?
Yeah.
You know, so...
And the thing is, like, you would have been foretold about, like, the events. Like, hey, we're going to see my parents tomorrow, something like that. And you're like, sweet, I'll be home by 9 or 10, right? You're just like, the boys, we'll just have a few drinks, and you'll tell them what's up. Like, get to there, the boys are like, let's go, let's have a funnel, bro. Like, hey, I've got us a box. Like, what are you drinking, bro? I've got this for us. Like, let's do this.
It's trivia, and you always think when you're in that moment, oh, I've had days before where I functioned the next day, and you think that's going to happen, and it never does.
Yeah, I know. Like, what the hell are we thinking?
Yeah, you hope that there's going to be a different outcome.
Nah,
the next
man.
day, and
Yeah, it's always the same. all was the same. Oh, it's crazy, eh?
Like you said, it's a big culture thing for Oz and New Zealand. I think to binge drink and to get on it and be legless, like that's usually the goal as well. Whereas, like you said, I think other cultures it's a condiment to the meal you're eating.
Right.
So you're present and you are tasting the wine or you're tasting the beer and the flavors just like you would a meal.
Yeah.
Whereas I think after your fourth, fifth beer, you can't taste shit anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it's just all the same. Like,
yeah.
But you're just being more and more unconscious I think for a lot of people it's generally linked to they're wanting to switch off or hide from something, whether you've had a big week and you're wanting to switch off, whether you've got other shit that you're probably not dealing with and you're wanting to suppress those uncomfortable feelings by being like, fuck it, just drink till I don't feel any of that. Have fun. They say they're having fun, but I'm like, well, you're unconscious to that anyway, and you're generally not going to remember it the next day.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so fun last night. I don't even remember what we did, but it was so fun.
But did you guys ever drink to the point to like hide the fact that you did something else? Like maybe having those cringe moments, right? You drank because you don't want to think about it. So it's like, okay, let's just categorize it, compartmentalize it, and push it away, and just drink. It doesn't have to deal with it. I found that based on my experiences and my own habits, that I was drinking just to compartmentalize anything that I had to deal with. And there was a problem like fighting and stuff like that. That was my way of venting. Like, I'll go and drink so I don't have to worry about having an argument with my girlfriend at the time. You know what I mean? Like, even like the tiniest little thing that was out of my control in my real world, I was like, you know what? I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else. And that was my way of doing it. Like, I'll just drink. Well, I'm just like so legless, man. It got to the embarrassing fact that I enjoyed like binge drinking during the day, like day benders, because it was like sunny, everyone's in a good time, and like, we'll have that vibe, right? And you just get drunk from 9 a.m., 5 p.m., and then you step it up again. like, you step it up a notch like to 8 p.m., and then from 8 p.m. to 10, you like find another level. Like, you just keep taking it to new heights, and eventually you just crash, man. Like, and I think that's what happened when I was like combing up from that bottle of whiskey, because I was been drinking the whole entire day. And then I was like, man, I feel so bad, because I just wake up 2 or 3 in the morning, I'm like, whoa, where am I?
Yeah.
And like, there's a whole lot that's happened within that time space, and you've just like missed out on all of that.
Have you ever been curious, knowing what you know now, the 2 years sobriety, knowing that you can, have you been curious that you can go back and like have 2 or 3 and still be okay?
Yeah.
I ask this because in June...
Is this recording back there?
Bruh. you didn't push record.
It's all good. It's all
So it
good.
was playing...
You were just playing something.
It's all good. You can always revisit it.
Yeah.
Did I ever think that I was going to go back?
Yeah, have you ever been like curious to like, go back? Because right before my 30th in June, I spent 6 months.
Bro, your 30th is the coolest.
Yeah, I spent it sober because of an accumulation, and I had an experience where I was so keen to get home and get on it that I ended up abusing a taxi driver, which is the complete opposite of the person that I wanted to be. No way. That's just not me. Like, and the taxi driver was trying to spark up conversation, but I was out of my mind. I was just telling him, shut the fuck up, bro, take me home. And you don't talk to people like that. You don't talk to people like that. You don't talk to people like that. And when I woke up, I tried to compartmentalize that and forget it. And then my flatmate was like, do you remember the taxi driver? And I'm like, what happened? What happened? I've got this memory in my mind, but maybe it's worse than I think it is. It was not. It was worse than hearing it back, because it wasn't. I didn't just tell him that shut the fuck up. It was like constant shut the fuck up, just drive.
Whoa.
And it was in that moment I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. That's not the anxiety, the disappointment, bro. And I remember like. And meditate. I would meditate every single day, and I would cry. I would cry because I needed to make enough of an emotional response to create change within myself. Because if I didn't feel the gravity of that moment, then I'd be like, oh well, it won't happen again. Anyway, I did 6 months of sobriety, and then New Year's came, and then I was like, you know what? I know. Let's see if I can control myself now. So since then, I've drank like one on the 28th, and then again at the ASB Classic. And then again at the dinner that we had. But that was like no more than like 4 beers, Because I've been curious to see, can you control yourself now?
I think that's the trap that is the trap, that you think that you can control it. There is an avenue for you to be able to control that, but it's only with the accountability of anyone else around you who's in the same boat as you. I've always been curious about going back and sending it, but I know I've gone too far in my efforts to kind of just throw it all away. The second thing I kind of remember, that I always remind myself that you can't really replace addiction. It's always going to be there at the back of your mind, but everything that you do outside of that, that little part of that addiction has to be able to kind of like cage that in. Like you can't take it away altogether. It's always going to be part of you. Like you can't erase addiction. It's always going to be a part of you, but what you do on an everyday basis is going to keep it at bay. So you got to have some measures. One of them was actually for me to go cold turkey and to step back from actually going out drinking. The second one is monitor it. Like if you feel good after 3 months, try challenging yourself to do it for 4 months. It's take a small step at a time. But I've been curious about sending it, but I've never had the urge to like action it. And I'm always like, I wonder what they do. I wonder what they're doing on Saturday night. What am I missing out on? It was that FOMO feeling. But I always wake up and I check my Instagram stories. Everyone's feeling like they've had a miniature friggin' operation and they're recovering. And I'm up and I love making pancakes. I'm having good breakfast, man. I can go for a walk. I can be present, read my books, be productive, and like do something that's going to set me up for the next day. But to answer your question, I've been curious, but I've never had the urge to do it, to jump back into that bandwagon. I love this, like this here, like productivity, and growing, So this is my new addiction. Like growth.
I want to move on now from your sobriety, bro.
Yep.
There was I was during my research of reading through your posts, you mentioned that you're talking about shadow work.
Ooh.
I wanted to know what your experiences with it and what your definition of shadow work is.
So my shadow thing, it's kind of stemmed from the whole drinking thing. So to define the shadow as like the yin and yang, right? When you're under pressure, you lean towards one of those personalities. Like when you're in a good space, obviously you lean towards the lighter side. When you're in under like heaps and heaps and heaps of like pressure that you cannot control, you lean into that dark side personality. And that's ultimately what comes out when I was drinking. So I link it back to my drinking. So when I was drinking, I was always in that shadow. Like there was that personality that has to prove himself. Like this is me. This is my persona. I'm the coolest fucking person you ever met. Like everything as you are as a whole person, the lighter and the dark side is the same person. You have the same skill set, just different scenarios they come out in. And for obvious reasons, because I was always in that mode of being out of my mind, I was always leaning into that shadow, and which is the part that I'm ashamed of. But now I've kind of like learned you can either work with it, collaborate with it, or you can fight against it. So yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I do. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've done a little bit of shadow work, and I've defined it for myself as in like there's masks, and the opposite to that is the shadows. And the masks are the identity traits that you want other people to perceive you as, and that you deem to be important. For example, for you, it might be being driven, being self-aware, and being kind. Those are the masks that you want to portray out. And then your shadows are the identity traits that you have chosen to reject for whatever reason. Most likely because it doesn't bring you the success and contribution and the fulfillment. So whatever the opposite of kindness, self-awareness, and being driven is, you reject that. But what we do is we only live one half of who we are. With every light there is a dark. And if we're able to collaborate with it, as you said, because there are times where you need to be unkind. Not all the time. I'm not saying
when you're chasing the truth and when you want to be honest about things, like
you have to be unkind in certain situations, right? You can't always be kind.
Skill sets. The skill set you have in the shadows is really, really important to have. I don't know if you guys watch anime. I watch a lot of anime, right? And the theme they have is they always have the duality. You have your light side and your dark side, and the dark side have some cool as freaking skills. If worked with and collaborated, like in a way that basically work towards a common goal, man, you're like the ultimate person because you know who you are. And it's unfortunate those really really cool skills in the shadow, they only come up when you're unconsciously not there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the innate ability, but you need to draw that out in a way that works for you and your other side as well. So
Yeah, I think a great example is that, like, let's say Monday to Friday, if you're always in masks mode, it can be real fucking exhausting.
100%.
You know? So like you're wearing the mask of being driven, that's great, Monday to Friday when you're at work, but Saturday, Sunday, when you're on the weekend, like, it's okay to be lazy.
Yeah.
You know, to lean into your shadow side and be lazy and take the treasures of being lazy, you know? Or because you exercise a certain identity trait doesn't make that who you are.
Yeah.
They're like, identity traits are tool sets.
Yeah.
Little tools that you
skills.
use depending, skills depending on the context that you're in.
Yeah, it's just really finding the way to kind of like draw those abilities out without hurting people. Like if you can go through life without hurting people, like I feel like you could have a pretty fulfilled life. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was Gunn who said it, is like, if anything in the world, man, like if you love someone, don't hurt them. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of been like my big goal. So in the shadow realm things, I've kind of leaned into it a little bit. I've come out of it and kind of going to the other side of it. Now I'm trying to sit in the middle where I can try to collaborate. So you become the mediator between these two skills. So you ultimately become the person who controls it. So think of it like a train station, right? Like you're the one that holds the levers and you choose which direction the train goes to. I'm trying to find a third track where it just goes down the line. The other two are like this, like, you know, waving your legs out and out. And if it needs to cross over, it does. You know what I mean? So that's the way I see it. It's just wavelengths. It's all about the energy.
It sounds like to me that you've got this healthy amount of detachment from yourself, from the personality that Filipo has created. There's self, there's Filipo.
And there's this other person.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure there's a different Filipo with his mother.
Yep.
There's a different version of Filipo with Rachel in group fitness classes, and you know that you can draw from those different nuances about yourself.
And I think that's the coolest thing about it. Once you create that self-awareness, it's like the freaking ultimate control. Like you feel like you're in more in control of everything. There are days where it feels like they're going haywire, but that's when you kind of like sit back and like, bro, it can't be any worse than what it is now. This morning is an example, right? Like I was trying to download music on my iPod. My iPod carked it. My laptop carked it. Then the music didn't play when I was like downloaded it to my phone. So it was cutting in and out. And I'm like, it comes in waves of 3, right? But it can't be any worse than how it is now. I could have easily just like lost my shit and be like, no, fuck, you know? But I pulled back and I'm like, just think, bring yourself back here and be like, dude, it can't be any worse than it is now. No, so just leave it as it is. Move on. Next little sequence of things to do. So yeah.
What tools have you used to facilitate and deepen your understanding of yourself? Like, do you meditate? Do you journal? Like, what do you do? What's helped you in this journey? Because I think during this chat of developing self-awareness, there's the other side of it is that we are controlled by our impulses. Our unconscious habits that our parents and our friends have handed on to us when we've adopted those behaviors without actually thinking about them. What have you facilitated for you to bring consciousness into your life?
I'm a total geek, so I may not look like it, but I love reading. I love journaling. I'm actually up to my 12th book already, like this year. So I love reading a lot, taking in information. I go for walks, listen to music. It sounds very cliched, but it's all those little things that you think is fun and it's boring that I actually really enjoy. Like, even if I'm just in a room doing nothing, like that's totally cool. I'm happy to be doing nothing because that gives my mind a bit of a rest from everything externally. So I journal, I read, I train, I try to have some fun. Like, fun for me is doing something productive. I still hang out with friends, I go and see families. Like, it's all the cliche things that you think it's boring. Like a normal person who might be listening to this and be like, that's actually like boring as shit. But it's actually the most like, I'm stuck with this addict that says like, every person just wants peace. And that's what it is, you know what I mean? I just want peace from like my outside world. And I'm happy to sit in boredom. I'm happy to sit in silence and not do anything. But I do little things like that so that my boredom is not like put to waste. Like, okay, maybe learn a new skill. So I guess like I mentioned before, just read, journal, go for a train, go and talk to people, have a coffee, sit there in boredom. I don't know. Like there's many things you can do. I've just found the things that I like doing, and it sometimes can be just nothing. Watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You guys like watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Reruns 3 times around, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I find the older I get, the more I protect the sacredness of being alone.
Yeah, man. Being in peace is a really, really important. And I get it. Like there's turmoil throughout our whole entire life, and I think our 20s is that it's that age where you learn and experiment. But I found that in my 30s, I'm 34 by the way.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Your spirit seems much younger. I did wonder
Right?
when you came in. Yeah,
Right?
I did wonder when you came in.
I know it's
How
freaking
old are you?
amazing. I think your 30s is like your need 20s. So you have your 20s to kind of like experiment, kind of like see what works and what doesn't work. Unfortunately for me, I felt like I've lost time just being mindless out of my brain. But like now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, wow. Actually, the cool thing here is actually doing the little things that I ignored before, and really, really finding that peace and get that comfort in myself. Yeah, and that exudes confidence, I guess, because you're so self-aware.
What do you think keeps a spirit young? Because this is my theory.
Let's hear it.
Is that
I love a good theorem.
it's enthusiasm.
Yep.
How do you keep your enthusiasm up? And I think it's play. I think we are handed down this belief that the older you get, the more responsibility you need to take on. And responsibilities means being more serious.
Or grown up.
Or grown up,
Yeah.
which means
back in the day.
being less playful.
Yeah.
And I think life is all about play.
Yeah.
Find the game in everything.
Yeah.
And by finding the game and everything, you're more engaged with life. You don't just watch life. You're engaging in things. You're finding new skills. You're becoming more conscious of yourself.
Did you find this growing up as well? Like, so many people think that you're like this goofy person. Because, like obviously brown boys, like it looks like we don't take anything seriously. And that's my biggest personality. Like, I don't take anything seriously, but unless I need to put my mind towards something, I'm really serious. So all my friends will just think I'm this goofy person, but deep down, I'm like conscientious as fuck. Like, I'm
deep guy.
I'm a thinker, I'm an observer, and I analyze a lot of information. And I try to analyze and incorporate all of that information together and try to use it so that way my life is living at, not optimum, I don't like using that word, just to living the best as I possibly can without hurting anyone. You know what I mean? Like, we are goofy, like, but we have knowledge. Like, and that's the thing that I've always learned. Just don't take life so seriously, man. There's time and space.
And I can only speak for myself, and maybe it resonates with you too, is that like I have accumulated the knowledge because of the playfulness.
Yeah.
I want to know more. I want to see why is that? Yeah. And that playfulness is also incorporated with curiosity. Yeah, man. Because that's what play is, right? It's the ability to be curious and why?
And you can tell the people that just like they're so grounded down from life and stuff like that, and you can tell when someone's putting on that persona, like you're so happy and they're just like, man, I've had like a shitty day or something like that. Like, life is good, they're putting a smile on, but deep down it's like, I can see you, bro. They call your eyes the window to the soul for a reason. Yeah. I can see through that. And for some strange reason, I always feel like I wish I can give you a portion of my energy just so you can feel a little bit better. But at the end of the day, no one's going to change and no one's going to do anything about themselves unless they're willing to. So you can't really force anyone to be like, hey, pick up your shit, be happy. But I always have this constant feeling that, man, have some of my happiness, like be happy with me. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. But yeah, to your point, play, man, 100%. However you define play is the thing that works for you. So you got to use that to its absolute peak.
We just have 2 more questions, bro, before we wrap up. This has been such a good episode. This is probably the longest ever.
Really?
Yeah, this is the longest ever. Yeah. First one is, if you could give Filipo advice from 5 years ago, so you're 34 now, you're talking to Filipo, who's 29 years old. He's about to enter his 30s. Right? This is a new phase of his life. And he's sitting right there and he's like, Filipo, 34 years old. can I get some advice from you? You knowing what I'm about to go through, what would you tell him?
Do it today, not tomorrow, and put that bottle down. You don't need another one. That's it. Simple.
Nice.
Because the reason behind that is that I tend to have this habit. Well, I used to have this habit of thinking I can just do it tomorrow. I can do it next week, and then next week becomes the following week, and it just creates this perpetual motion. But if you do it today, even if by a small margin, if you can achieve just 1% or whatever you're doing, it's one step towards the right direction. The other thing as well is I remember being so out of my mind, and I'll have a beer in my hand. It's like, I know I've had enough, but then I'm like, nah, just one more. Surely one more. Surely one more is not going to make a difference. And one bottle turns into two, then two turns into three, and it just becomes, it became very toxic. So I didn't really enjoy that. But yeah.
I think there's so much value in this conversation, bro, because it's rare for me to have met another brown brother on this journey of consciousness and self-development, because it's just not a usual behavior that's passed down to us from our parents or our other peers. So whether you're white, but most importantly if you're brown, if you're listening to this, I hope you really take some value out of this, and that there is different worlds out there.
100%. Other than your own, yeah.
Where can people find you, bro? Also, so please let us know your Instagram, and we know that you've also started your own podcast, which is amazing. Yeah. So where can people find you?
On Spotify, my podcast called The Wandering Tongan, and on Instagram is Phillygram01. I think it's Philly FILLY _gram01. I think that's all right. I have no idea why I haven't changed it. It reminds me of do you guys,
the one, eh?
Yeah. Do you guys remember when you used to make your MSN account when you were little, and it just stuck with it? Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's literally it. I haven't changed it because it was just because why? Why do I have to?
Well, it's sitting concrete now, so you just got to stay there, because people listening to it will look for that tag, and we'll tag you in all the clips and stuff anyway. But thank you so much, bro. We really appreciate it. Peace out. See you, everybody.